Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. I was told by a never Trumper before the 2016 election that Donald Trump would take the Republican Party down. They said that he would destroy the party and it might not ever be the same again. I disagreed, of course, but it did take me a little bit of time to think about it. And what would the Republican Party look like years down the road if Donald Trump became president? Well, now that we are beginning a second term with him as president, the Republican Party has not been in a better position politically, at least in my lifetime. Part of the reason for this is that Donald Trump is not an ideologue. He's a populist. What that means is that he doesn't make decisions based on a set of conservative or liberal ideals. If you were to tell me that you were a liberal Democrat, for instance, I could tell you how you probably come down on most of the major issues. The same thing would go for being a conservative Republican, of course. As a conservative, I hold to the ideals of free market capitalism, law and order, and personal freedoms. I firmly believe that we as a people are better off when we follow these principles, no matter what the issue. You can take just about any issue and understand how someone sees that issue by their set of ideals. For example, take the issue of rent control. If you ask a liberal what they think of the government making laws that put a cap on how much a landlord can raise rents, they would say that it's a great thing since it's the government protecting the underdog, the renters, from the big bad landlords that just own these rentals because of their inherent greed. Now, a conservative would have an entirely different view of rent control. They would look at the same issue and say that these laws hurt everyone. They hurt the landlord, many of whom are individuals that depend on the rent to pay the mortgage, because they get in the way of the person that takes all the risk and the responsibility from charging what they need to keep the place running for the renters. It even hurts the renter who, by driving up the cost of living and making it increasingly harder to find a place to rent. So you see how you can take any issue and know how someone will usually come down on it by how they see the world. But Donald Trump is not an ideologue. He is a populist and a realist, and that means that he will usually come down on the side that is most popular and is proven to be effective. Since the majority of the nation is still conservative, he's going to promote conservative things usually. Take the rent control issue again. He comes down on the side of opposing these laws because they're not popular with the average American, and they have been proven not to work everywhere that they've been tried. So there's that. but liberal Democrats have been hard pressed to find a way to counter Trump, and it has put them between a rock and a hard place. Over the last couple of decades, the Democratic Party has gotten more and more liberal, if you hadn't noticed. And under Obama and Biden, they have shown just how liberal they're willing to go. After Trump's presidential win last year, they're like a rudderless boat on a windy sea. And they go more and more liberal. If they go more and more liberal, like many of their party want them to, they alienate most American voters. And if they take a turn to the center, they look like hypocrites that are just rolling over for a strong Republican leader. President Trump's address to Congress last month was a good example of this. They could not stand and applaud for a man who was just accepted into West Point, for a girl recovering from a brain trauma, or even a 13-year-old cancer survivor who was just given his dream of being a part of the Secret Service. If they had if they had celebrated these people, they would have been blasted by their own party for not fighting Trump or being an ally or something. So they sat on their hands, and with sourpuss faces, they rejected these feel-good stories and individuals. Now, the liberal Democrats, with their woke agendas, find themselves on the wrong end of almost every issue politically. You name the issue. They're on the side that 20% of Americans support, and Trump is on the side of the other 80%. Take the border security, for example. Trump, in just a few weeks, has effectively closed what was wide open. That border was a wide open border, and he's effectively closed it now. This leaves liberals on the side of gang members and terrorists. These are who they are fighting for. They're fighting for gang members and terrorists. And Americans notice. Take government waste as another example. Trump institutes DOGE and creates it as a department, and shuts down wasteful departments like the USAID. Liberal Democrats oppose transparency and the finding of government waste. It is as if Trump derangement syndrome is a real mental illness, don't you think? Everything he does, they oppose. Since he is a populist and not an ideologue, he sides with the majority of Americans, and that puts them on the side of the minority if they are to oppose him. It's kind of like the meme I saw the other day, where it had the two-party platforms on it. On one side, it was labeled Republicans, and it had things like free enterprise, secure borders, honest elections, real journalism, civil rights, moral standards, and personal liberty on that side. On the Democratic side, it just said, hate Trump. That's their platform. Just hate Trump. And it's true, though. That's why it's so funny. It's true. Transgenderism is another issue that they're on the wrong side of. The Daily Wire reports the Department of Veteran Affairs for years defied a rule barring gender alterations to provide procedures designed to help people prevent or present as the opposite sex. This is from internal documents. The VA, known for providing prosthetic limbs to war heroes who suffered wounds on the battlefield, and provided prosthetic. They provided prosthetic penises called 3-in-1, which is a pee, pack, and play, I guess, as well as prosthetics designed to look like breasts, chest binders, wigs, dilator for fake vaginas and things. This is what the documents show. Federal regulations excluded gender alterations from medical services the VA is permitted to provide. So they're not supposed to provide these kind of things. But the VA interpreted that phrase narrowly to mean only surgeries themselves. So since 2011, VA has provided all medically necessary transition-related care for transgender and gender diverse veterans except surgeries. That's according to a document. Now, the Biden administration also stretched the definition of medically necessary, of course, right? While on a 2020 document that said that hair removal was cosmetic and could not be covered, a document from the Biden administration taught VA staff how to pay outside providers to laser removal the hair on a transgender person. Quote, face, neck, back, chest, abdomen, and genitals. Unquote. And to record it with a vague, unlisted procedure code for skin, mucous membrane, and subcutaneous tissue. So these are liberal Democrats that are doing anything they can to be on the wrong side. It doesn't even matter if it hurts people. The mother of a girl attending an Illinois middle school, yes, a middle school, said that after her daughter refused to change her clothes in front of a biological boy who identified as a transgender girl, school officials stepped in and forced her to do so. Forced her to do so. Nicole Gorgas is her name, and she told the story of what she said happened to her 13-year-old daughter and the other girls at Shepherd Middle School while speaking at a Deerfield School District 109 school board meeting on Thursday. This according to the National Review. Now, Deerfield is a suburb of Chicago, and Gorgas said her daughter came home upset on February 5th, saying a boy was using a girl's bathroom. Now, according to her, the girl was then told by school administrators that the boy was allowed to use the girls' locker room and bathroom because he identified as a girl. And the school's inclusive bathroom policy allowed him to use whichever locker room he wanted. Now, she spoke to school administrators and told them that they were violating President Donald Trump's executive order that prohibited males from using female locker rooms and participating in girls' sports. And the school stood its ground, citing the district's legal counsel. So their lawyer told them to do it. After this exchange, the mom said on Thursday that the situation went from bad to worse. A few days later, the male student was present in the girls' locker room. Feeling violated, the girls made the choice not to change into their PE clothes with the biological male student present. The mother said that the school administrators then supervised the girls' locker room to make sure that the girls changed their clothes in front of the transgender identifying boy without protest. She identified the district's assistant superintendent for school services, the school's assistant principal, and the director for student services as the administrators who forced the girls to change in front of the boy, according to the Lake County Gazette. So part of the problem with liberal Dems is that they can't go to the side of the majority because they have become the party of the far left. These wokesters are demanding the party double down on this kind of thing right here. Americans want Democrats to fight President Donald Trump, according to Senator Chris Murphy, who's a Democrat from Connecticut, by the way. And he contended on Sunday that this was true despite polling that painted a dismal picture for his party. On NBC's Meet the Press, Murphy alluded to a contentious few days for Senate Democrats in the last week. During that time, enough members of the party chose not to support blocking a GOP-backed stopgap bill, allowing it to pass and averting a partial government shutdown. Quote, I think Americans want the Democratic Party to stand up and fight and to take risks. Listen, I understand that had we gone into a shutdown even a handful of days, it would have been difficult, Murphy said. But it would have sent a message that the Democratic Party is not going to be bullied by Donald Trump. We are not going to let them write spending bills unilaterally that cut programs for people we care about, that give the president new and extraordinary power. Murphy was responding to a moderator, Kristen Welker, who pressed the senator for a response to a new NBC survey conducted before the Senate showdown over the continuing resolution. The national poll found just 27% of respondents had a positive view of Democrats. The same survey revealed that Trump and his second-term administration reached a significant milestone, with 44% of Americans saying they believed in the United States and the fact that they are heading in the right direction. The highest level since early 2004, by the way, when George W. Bush was president. And despite these findings, Murphy argued that bipartisanship is not a viable option for this party, echoing a common refrain, of course, among Democrats. And he warned that representative democracy in the United States is at risk with Trump in office. How many times have you heard that, right? Quote, I think Democrats in this country, but I think that the broad middle of the public as well want to see our party fighting in exceptional ways. That is the conversation that has happened to inside the Democratic Party, inside our caucus. And if we don't get that right, if we continue to work with Republicans, we will continue to hand Donald Trump more power, and we are going to lose our democracy. So here's just another example of just how out of touch these Democratic leaders are. In fact, Senator, in fact, he's even the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer. He ridiculed Americans who dare to suggest that people should be allowed to keep what they earn. Yeah, and promising that government was there to stop them from doing so. Schumer, who made an appearance on Tuesday on ABC's The View, spent much of the broadcast on his heels playing defense as the host grilled him over his last-minute support for the Republican-led continuing resolution that passed on Friday and will, of course, fund the federal government through September. And during one segment, though, you have to hear this, during one segment, he paused to mock American conservatives and business owners who have the audacity to argue that they should be able to keep what they've earned and operate the business, they've built in a way that they see fit. Here, you have to listen.
And you know what their attitude is? I made my money all by myself. How dare your government take my money from me? I don't want to pay taxes. Or I built my company with my bare hands. How dare your government tell me how I should treat my customers, the land and water that I own, or my employees? They hate government. Government's a barrier to people, a barrier to stop them from doing things. They want to destroy it. We are not letting them do it, and we're united.
Okay.
That is crazy, right? In an opinion piece by Ben Shapiro from the Daily Wire, he says this. He says, so the Democrats are continuing to move over to the left. This reflects a serious problem in the Democratic Party. They do not know which way to move. They are stuck because of identity politics and largely because of immigration. They are now stuck in a rut of their own making, and it is very difficult to break out of that rut. As a result, Democrats are thrashing against the box of reality. Former Bill Clinton pollster Mark Penn points out the Democratic Party is more unpopular than they've been any time in his lifetime, saying, quote, I have never seen anything like this. This is a record low for the Democratic Party in terms of favorability. Democrats are trying to figure out exactly to whom they should turn in the wake of Donald Trump's victory and the fact that he's now steamrolling through his agenda. Do they turn back to the supposedly moderate types, the Joe Biden types? Or should they double down on Kamala Harris, who is still wandering the landscape? Democrats themselves are torn as to how to approach the Trump administration. And on the one hand, they want to go back to the resistance-style anger They want to just scream at the wind a lot. The problem for them is that they can find a point of um, consultation, because much of what Trump is doing right now is quite popular, of course. So they're stuck in a weird in between. On the one hand, they want to preach that Trump is not empathetic and more empathy is needed, but people don't see the Democrats as empathetic. At a town hall event in Roswell, Georgia, a Democrat woman went on a rant that over the weekend that got a lot of attention from the left. This is what she blustered. She said, "It's clear from all the writings of our founding fathers that our great republic was never meant to be ruled by a dictator nor a king. It's clear from all the writings of our founding fathers that our great republic was never meant to be ruled by a dictator nor a king. So you can imagine my shock and pure horror when I woke up to find that our president had given himself unprecedented executive powers, and then, within a few days, named himself king to his followers. Tyranny is rising in the White House, and a man has declared himself our king. So I would like to know, rather the people would like to know, what you, Congressman, and your fellow congressmen are going to do to rein in a megalomaniac in the White House." Of course, all of this rings hollow. It is sound and fury signifying almost nothing at this point, because the Democratic Party does not know what it stands for. On the one hand, they want to say they are for everyone. On the other hand, they want to push identity politics. On the one hand, they want to talk about no dictatorship. And on the other hand, they want government to control every part of Americans' lives. On the one hand, they want to rave that Trump is breaking down foreign policy. And on the other hand, they want to surrender almost everywhere. So, which is it? Well, I would say that our answer to this question may have just come in the form of a recent poll. This comes from the Daily Mail. It says MAGA World is practically giddy after a poll showed progressive Democrat representative AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, was viewed as the person who best reflects the Democratic Party's core values. Yeah, AOC. In the latest CNN poll, this is a CNN poll, Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents were asked which one person best reflects the core values of the Democratic Party today. The open-ended question found the progressive New York lawmaker was viewed as the one person that best reflected the party. Whoa. If this is true, you've got problems as a party. She beat out the former vice president and 2024 Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris, as well as other Democrats who've been floated as potential 2028 contenders. AOC, who's like, I think 35 now, came in first place with 10%, while Harris was second with 9%. Get this, Senator Bernie Sanders. I mean, Bernie Sanders, he's like the socialist / communist. He came in third with 8%, while the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who's just crazy, was in fourth place with 6%. Former President Barack Obama, who, of course, doesn't have anything to do right now, I mean, as far as elected positions, and Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who's kind of like the new AOC, she's kind of the bright face right now. Well, they were tied for fifth place with 4%. Here, get this, and this is kind of interesting. California Governor Gavin Newsom, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Michigan Senator Elissa Slotkin, and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer were all tied with 2%. Yeah, Gavin Newsom, 2% there. Another 15 Democrats, including some lawmakers and governors, each received 1% and things. As Democrats are largely split on who best reflects the party's values. A whopping 26% of respondents had no opinion, as Republicans control the House and the Senate and the White House, all of it. So Trump allies in mega world greeted the results with the poll as good news, as the progressive Democratic congresswoman closely aligned with Sanders has long accused of being too far left by some of the moderates in the party. Republicans, they posted a series of kind of giddy reactions on X from the poll results. They suggested, with AOC viewed as the Democratic Party leader, Republicans could win elections for years to come. Others claimed her being viewed as the Democratic leader would lead to more men abandoning the party. He called the results brutal for Democrats. He claimed the New York Congresswoman is totally out of touch with most Americans. And AOC leading the pack comes as she has been one of the fiercest critics of course, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer for caving to the Republicans last week over the government funding bill. The New York Congresswoman said Democrats are feeling a sense of betrayal after Schumer and 9 other Senate Democrats voted to advance the House GOP bill without extracting a single demand. But the CNN poll found Democrats have their lowest approval ever recorded in the polling, as more Democrats are disapprove of their own party. It showed more Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents want their party doing more to fight back against the Trump agenda rather than work with Republicans. And the results are a major shift from the beginning of Trump's first term and signals more Democrats are aligned with AOC's approach than Schumer's from last week's funding showdown. The survey conducted March 6th through 9th included 1,206 respondents and has a major margin of error of 3.3 percentage points. So, yeah, I mean, this is not looking good for the Democratic Party. They are definitely between as you know, you've heard the proverbial rock and a hard place, because if they do what their leadership is demanding, if they do what a lot of people within the party have demanded, then they're going to want to go hard left, continually to go hard left, because that's where they've been for the last few decades. But if they do that, what are they going to do? They're going to isolate most Americans and most American voters. So how about going toward the middle and, not going so far left? Well, if they do that, I mean, look at Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom, on his podcast, started saying things that everybody knew weren't true. We've covered some of that on this podcast, but he's trying to look more moderate. Well, he's getting blasted for it. Chuck Schumer, here decided to go along with and vote the way of the Republicans. He's getting blasted for it, even though it was the right thing to do. So yeah, they're in a death spiral. It looks like almost at this point. And really, to be honest, I mean, as Christians, we are to see the world through the lens of the Bible. We are to have an ideology that matches up with what the Bible says. Liberals don't usually have that kind of foundation, and they are adrift right now. They are being placed on the wrong side of almost every issue politically by a populist president that can do no wrong right now. And it'll be really interesting to watch both Republicans and Democrats But just to see, I mean, how long this is going to go in this direction, because there's not a real visible way out for Democrats right now, and this is what they've become. They've become the party of the minority, and that's not going to be good for them politically. So anyway, I'd love to hear from you on it. Of course, you can always get a hold of us and let us know what you feel on issues like this. UncommonSensePodcast.com. We're also on YouTube, and you can listen to us anywhere where you get your podcasts. Thank you very much for listening. This podcast is a production of Morganite Communications.